We can live on this earth in connection with the planet, all of her species, life as it exists, and we can be at peace. We can be in love. We can be in joy. We do not have to be at war. The teaching of dropping the root first, the second chakra first, the third chakra first, and then finding your way to the heart is the difference between wishing the world would be a better place and making the world a better place. The call for us is to embody, not escape. The call for us is to get ourselves so connected to this flesh, love what the invitation is of feeling and of connecting to earth and each other. And we actually live in equality with all sentient beings, in our own unconditional loving self. And we get to do what this earth invited us to come do, which is be alive in our joy. And you will wake up the earth aspect of what you are and then bring all of that to the highest level of humanity. And we will see an epic human race living on the planet Earth.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sovereign Self Show, where you learn how your body, your emotions, your energy are not in the way. They are actually leading the way. And today we are talking all things vocal transformation, how you can awaken your voice and reclaim your life. We are talking with Maryn Azoff, and she is a longtime singer, vocal coach, musician, spirit lifter, soul emancipator, and fear crusher. Yes, she has been on a mission of connecting people all over the world to the power of the human voice for many years and does so through her unique program and healing modality she created called the Vocal Transformation Method. The goal of her work is to reawaken the innate intelligence of the body, mind, spirit connection through the faculty of the human. So, well, using my human voice, welcome to the show, Maryn. Welcome, Maryn.
Thank you so much. It's so great to be here, Loren.
Oh my goodness. I was telling her off air that the internet where we're at right now is very affected by the energy. Every time I get on a podcast, I get excited and the internet starts to kick me off. So we're going to bear with us today, but I'm so excited to have you on here. I know I have been following your work for a while now, and I just love everything that you are about, this beautiful embodiment of awakening that voice and being that leading example for people. But how did you get, like, what was your hero's journey? I always love hearing the transformational part before we jump in, the cliff notes, if you will, of how you started to create this vocal transformation method.
Okay, it's a very long story, and I'm going to give you the Cliff Note version so that we don't take the whole conversation here, but it's quite a thing. So when I was younger, I was a natural singer. It came up when I was around 5 years old. And at the time, something was going on in my private personal life at home that was traumatic to me, which until I was much older, I didn't even realize was going on. It's like stuffed in my subconscious territory, unconscious territory all these years. But in the moment where they discovered my voice, it came out of this need for my soul to express itself. Didn't know this at 5. Knew this at 33 when it actually came back up to look at. But something was being kept a secret inside, and I got this opportunity to sing. And my soul just said, I want to do it. And then when I sang, they could hear my voice and they heard that I had a natural gift. So I was born with the ability to sing. And what happened then was they decided she's a singer, we're going to train her. Like they would, like anybody who showed up with this voice would become. I think that's Beyonce's story, right? She was born, she opened her voice in church and they were like, she's going to be a star. And we have a huge star. So they did that to me. They put me in rigorous training for the voice, which I a little bit loved, mostly hated because it was like a gym. You're working out these muscles and you're young and you want to just be singing songs you love, but they have you like doing scales all the time, which is what most people don't like about learning to sing, right? But now I am nothing but grateful for it and know why it is so fundamentally important. But at that time, I became known as the singer. I was going to be the star, the whole story that they would paint around it, and what even as children we would dream of when we look at our own stars in the world. And then it was a journey, a very interesting journey of my hero's journey begins with leaving the music industry, traveling to Australia, to the other side of the world to find out who I am if I'm not a singer, because that had become my identity. And ultimately, what I found is my way. I lived in Australia and I found my way to a chanting practice, which at that time felt very good for my life. And I started to really feel how it was shifting my health, my emotions, my mindset, my everything. Like my whole body was coming online. But I didn't relate it even then in my early 20s to the fact that the voice and the singing, it was just this happenstance. We're picking up breadcrumbs of our purpose as we go along. And then I found plant medicine after a big accident that left me paralyzed on the right side of my body. Australia had to spit me out and send me back to New York. And it was in New York that I found my first shaman, my first plant medicine. And in that first ceremony, I was shown as clear as day that the voice is the pathway of the future, of healing for humanity, and that it's the most ancient tool we have. It's the earliest intelligence of our body and our soul, and that we've made it a performative thing instead of what it really is designed for, a creative thing. So the medicine herself invited me to begin that journey for me to use my voice as a pathway of healing. And then through the process of discovering exactly how this thing works and watching it work and living it work, she showed me that I have to give this to everybody. So I have been doing this now for well over a decade. I've been working with the plant medicines for almost 20 years. So this has been something I've been on a mission of for a long time. But what I find is that now is the time for humanity to really reclaim this faculty. Is our main, and I say this not just because I teach it. I teach it just to offer it back. It is our main pathway of healing. Before we look outside for something to heal us, we can go deep within. We can use our own breath and our own sound to completely awaken our own body's intelligence. And this is something that we've known since the moment we were born, and then the world taught out of us. So this has been my mission now for a while, and I've watched people completely miraculously heal themselves.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Yeah, for me, the voice, I've been a yogi for a while, and Kundalini yoga I was so drawn to that because they do use mantras and chants, and I could feel the vibrations in my body, but it wasn't until my energy and my body started to activate and have these huge releases, or whatever you want to call it. Your body, the energy takes over. And my body naturally started to tone, started to chant, started to hum. Sometimes when it was a trauma release, I would scream or say things, and it was like, there's something there, because once that energy makes it past the heart, there's no, for me, you're just witnessing this experience. So what can we do to start activating, our own life force energy using the voice in that way, that our body that has that memory, it knows what to do already?
And from like the moment you took your first breath, your
Yeah.
body knows to make sound. And our infant intelligence, when we don't have any concept of personality or separate sense of self from what is, we know that this is our mode. Expression is our mode of release. And it requires certain muscles to do that. But when we actually forget, and that starts to happen at 4, 5, 6 years old, we start to forget. When that starts to happen, our head takes everything over and we stop using these muscles. We stop using the parts of our body that are naturally there to support sound. And instead we start to lean on our throat and we're using our head. So our whole voice, I say the human voice is the soul's dynamic life urge for truthful expression. But the way that we experience truth, humanity, once we start to forget, is through the head. and through the reality that we experience in the outside world, that we then say, look, that's the truth, that's what reality is. But ultimately, reality is only perspective. And that perspective is coming through our vision, through like our sensory inputs, and then how our thought processes in our ego will identify that. So our entire voice becomes structured around our throat and our head. And to what you just said before, once it comes up through the body, through the heart, I'm the witness, right? That's it. Like you nailed it right out of the gate. To step back into what it means to be the authentic expression, truthful expression of what we are, is to step back into letting your body and your soul have this mechanism and express sound through it, because that intelligence was our invitation. Our invitation to life was to function from that level, from the level of soul meets body. And then we got programmed as a person, as basically a strategy. We figured out how to navigate life through a lens that will keep us safe, acceptable, appreciated, even rewarded and awarded, and all the things that we want for validation from this outside world. When meanwhile, we were born to be creator. And when we actually step out of the limited thoughts of a small ego, a small self, even if your ego thinks you are the greatest thing that ever walked this earth, it's still so limited in how it sees that as truth. So when we can get past that, we actually then can get the whole body to create the sound, which is exactly what we did at our first sound when we were first born, and we breathed in and that sound is every muscle. And when you hold a crying baby, you can actually feel that. They become a solid muscle. And so the first thing we can do to reclaim this is to get our breath back in our body. We have to reclaim the first breath we ever took, which was a diaphragmatic breath all the way in to the root of our being, which then pulled our soul all the way in. And when we did that, we engaged all the muscles necessary to create sound. It moved sound through the entire embodiment, and it woke up the entire physical intelligence. If we didn't cry when we were born, up until recently, they used to hit babies that didn't cry because they had to make sure that they could. Because it's such an important part of our intelligence to express what we need. And that's where it actually starts. It starts from a necessity. It starts from a need-based place. Even if we go all the way back to indigenous cultures, the science around it now is kind of crazy. I try not to look too much through a scientific lens at anything because that's still humans trying to grasp at identifying and knowing something that is so mysterious and magical that unless you actually drop into the mystery, we can't fully dance with this thing that we call life. But we're going to go for the sake of those of you who feel like your voice, what? Like my voice is medicine? What do you mean? Come on, right? We're going to go through that lens for those people who need to hear it this way. What they're showing now with the human voice is that when we use our voice, I'm going to say correctly, even though I don't like to use that word, when we use our breath or breathe all the way the diaphragm down, and we engage the proper muscles to support sound from the root of our body up through our vessel instead of from the top down, we actually begin a process of decreasing adrenaline, cortisol, and stress hormones that are in the body and increasing oxytocin and dopamine and hormones that are bringing us bliss and love and connection. We are stabilizing the vagus nerve that wants to be in fight or flight and in constant control. And we are coming into parasympathetic nervous system and relaxation mode. This is so important when we look at where we started, because indigenous culture was in root chakra survival mode. They needed to make it through the winter. They needed to procreate and keep life going. They needed food and shelter and life. And we could definitely have a conversation about how that was the last time we were as connected to spirit as we can be, because they were right in the conversation, right there with earth and soul and body, right in survival. And what they're showing now about shamanic drumming and singing, and why all the way back to Africa, the music and the rhythm is the base of that culture. Is it because it actually increases lifespan? It actually wakes up genetic information. It actually connects you all the way down the line from your ancestors all the way back, connects you into spirit, and moves the species forward. So these aren't just like songs. Yes, singing brings joy, and joy brings light into life, brings your mitochondria back into health. It brings everything back online. And the last piece I'd say is the breath required for it is a diaphragmatic breath that brings you all the way down into your gut, into your deepest instinctual intelligence. And when we breathe that way, we're now prepared to create sound. And the sound you talked about before, the sound that comes from the belly through the heart, out the mouth. And so, in that process of vocalizing from that way, which is the natural way, the organic way to vocalize, right? I was trained classically, which was an unnatural way of producing sound so that I can reach certain qualities of sound that I've found that you can actually release in the natural way as well. You don't have to be classically trained. You can just be human and do what the body knows how to do. So when we actually get to that diaphragmatic breath all the way down, you now have access to your gut first. And what you'll feel when you breathe there is that there's a direct connector when you breathe into your gut that creates a pressure in your heart and brings the awareness from your brain up top down to meet it. And this is where my work is this is what I'm doing here is that these are the three human brains. We don't have one brain. We have three brains. The gut is the most intelligent of our brains because the gut, the umbilicus, is carrying the information down the bloodline all the way through the genetic line. So everything we've needed to physically evolve as a human, everything our body knows what to do, which it does without us, our body knows. When we breathe down there and we engage that brain first, the other two brains are going to fall in line in the right order of operations. And a human is designed to feel deeply, to engage our instincts, which then moves into our emotions. And then from there, our knowledge can take all of that and wield the world. But when we're living a life that is knowledge based and then trying somehow to wield it into wisdom, it doesn't work. We don't quite get it. And we make a lot of errors and have to learn the hard way through that process, which is all part of life. I'm celebrating it all. But to think that your voice, just your voice, to think that a voice can begin to realign all of your intelligence, heal your body. You don't have to do it aside from supporting sound. Bring you to your deepest knowing, and then also create the confidence, which means the resilience of your nervous system and the strength of your fortitude and muscles to speak it up and out, share it with the world, and begin to make change happen in reality. And this is my mission. My mission is, yes, about singing. Yes, everyone should sing and love singing and enjoy singing. It's a great emotional ride and it's a great release of pleasure and joy, and singing is delicious. But there are many people in this world who don't want to fancy themselves a singer, and who, when they hear themselves, when I talk about the voice, they immediately assume I'm talking about becoming a singer. And we get there. If you start vocal transformation, you will be a great singer. But we have to get there from first being a voice that then wants to sing. And it starts with just sound through every resonator of the body. It just starts with being basically your own tuning fork, your own singing bowl. Making as much sound as you can releases memory that's stored inside the body. It releases layers of ego identity that constrict us and hold us back. And just the shift of not contraction, but expression of our sound literally changes the way we feel about who we are and what we're doing here in the world.
Wow. Wow. I don't even know where to start from there. I keep hearing and seeing that how our womb, our sacral chakra, is related to our throat chakra. And if you look from a physiological standpoint, the muscles in our throat and our pelvic floor look very, very similar. So kind of aligns with what you're saying. I would love to talk about, you talked about the three minds of our body, but from an energetic chakra perspective, how do we really awaken the voice? Because I think very similar teachings is starting lower chakras, and once that energy starts to awaken and make it past here, that's
Yeah.
where the miracles can happen.
And that's where the physical changes happen because
Yeah.
you're looking at the Shakti aspect of our body. So our whole body is built 7 chakras, 3 above the heart, 3 below the heart. Heart is the center of gravity. Heart is where human is human. And where even if we attain all 7 of these chakras, like Siddhartha and the Buddha and Christ. And even if we get to these awakened, enlightened states that humanity knows is possible within the flesh, because we have many masters on this planet who've done it, we still are being asked always to bring that energy to the heart through the heart. We are still, every enlightened master that we know of is still speaking of unconditional love, unlimited compassion, equanimity for all. It's always going to come through our heart, which is what is human about us, this positioning. So we are a makeup of as above, so below, as within, so without, giving and receiving. And our whole chakra system is set up that way. So your root chakra is connected to your heart. Your connection to the planet herself, which is root, is connected to your ability to love your life and be loved in this life, supported and held and unconditionally loved. Your second chakra is directly connected to your throat, as you said, which I'm going to come back to in a moment. That is your creativity, your relationships, your sensuality, your sexuality, your procreation, all of that is there. And that is linked into how you express yourself and create your life in the world. The throat chakra is also your choice and follow through. This is a very important part. We always look at like expression with the throat chakra, but it's also what you choose to put out into the world and what you choose not to put out into the world from within. And this is how we control the environment. What we share or what we don't share is how we control how the world sees us and how we navigate our strategy. So it's very important when we look at this connection because your second chakra is your emotions, your senses, and your creative drive. But we get blocked and choose not to listen to what our body tells us it wants to express and instead say, no, this is not appropriate or this will not be well received. I'm going to keep it inside. And this is where we start to break down emotionally and where we get out of balance. We'll come back to that. Third chakra is directly connected to the third eye, which is actually the first eye, the all-seeing eye of truth, that pineal gland that has insight and actually sees the inner light and what the whole thing is about for us individually in connection with the universe. But the third chakra is your ego. So it's where your separate sense of self gets very strong and where you begin to think who you think you are and who you think you are not, and what you think you're capable of and what you think you're not capable of. So this is your area of personal power, willpower, drive, discipline, strength. And it's also your house of insecurity, shame, guilt, unworthiness. It's all right there at the gut, at the solar plexus. And that is having a direct conversation with how you think about life. So what perspective this person, quote unquote, you are, what reality you think the world is. And everything is perspective. We can have the exact same experience. We could all be in the same place at the same time and have totally different realities of what's going on right now. So the hugest thing for humanity right now, but let me just finish the chakra system. The crown. The crown is your prajna paramita, as they would say in the Buddhist lineage. That it is your wisdom. Wisdom. It's pre-knowledge. It's the part of us that is the oversoul, the highest self, the soul that chose to incarnate, that knows the whole story already, absent of fear, absent of judgment, absent of anything that separates you from the way the whole universal thing is moving. And from that perspective, that height of perspective, we can really see how simple and easeful life can be. But the issue with us is that we have this wall here at 6 that's being defined by 3 that ultimately will not allow that highest point of view to actually descend down and find us in our heart. It gets stuck. And they actually call this area at the third eye the stained glass, which is like where the pure light of consciousness comes through. And then, depending on our thought processes, our beliefs, our ideas, how we're driving that, that's the coloring of the essence that will become embodiment and we will live out in the physical plane. So the voice itself is actually a movement of an inhalation of that crown all the way down to the God, which is where we take that inhalation. And then we root down to the earth and we pull the Shakti, the planetary aspect, up through the body. And these two great intelligences are now dancing here in this instrument. I mean, the body is just a bunch of resonators. It's just a bunch of sound making. And we bring it up and we let sound move through the whole thing. And here's how we begin to create the world. So the driving force of my work goes back to the Rig Veda, the ancient yogic text that, when I was studying it, speaks about the human voice as unmanifest form. So through the ability to breathe spirit, respiration, respiriting into the vessel, connect it to Shakti, to earth-based elements. At the root chakra, we have earth. The second chakra, we have water. At the third chakra, we have fire. At the fourth chakra, we have air. At the fifth chakra, we have ether. The sixth chakra is space, which is just how much space, open space, visionary space, can you hold for these other elements to create within? This is why all manifesting teachers talk about your thought being everything. The power of how you think creates your life. And I would lean into the power of how much space for potential and possibility to hold. How big do you vision? Do you only vision for yourself, or do you vision for the universe? Do you vision for the earth? Do you vision for all sentient beings? Like, how big do you connect yourself into vision? And then from there, can you pull that spirit all the way down to the earth, muster the energy of all these elements, create a frequency of sound that moves through your ether, your fifth chakra, which is the unseen. The ether is the energy of the unseen that sits in everything. And then can you put that out into the world in vibration, in a physical wave form pattern? It's a real thing. This is not some mumbo jumbo spiritual stuff. This is science, quantum, like we're doing this. There's a wave form that then leaves your body that is made up of all of these elements, and then it goes out and becomes your physical reality. This was the gift. This was the invitation of Earth for humanity. You're going to come onto this planet, and we're going to give you the power of creation. When you first come out of the womb, the first thing you're going to wake up is that power. Yes, you're going to forget it for a while because the outside world is going to tell you that it's ugly, bad, the wrong thing to say at the wrong time. It doesn't sound right. You just don't say those things. We don't appreciate it. This religion doesn't like that. This school doesn't like that. This family doesn't like that. Like, don't only say pleasing things, please, whatever it is that anybody heard that shut us up from actually listening to the truth of what we're feeling through all of our senses, through all of our instincts, through all of our emotions, and then the freedom to express it out into the world in a way that we will create this life the way we want to live it, not the way whoever the they are in your life are telling you you're supposed to live it. I know it's a lot, guys. I hope you're with me here, but it's
Yes.
sick. And it's the essence of everything you are is your voice.
Wow. I was just thinking, Sanskrit, which I love learning about, is a vibrational language and how different mantras and tones relate to different frequencies. But I recently learned that Jesus didn't speak Hebrew, he spoke Aramaic, And that's also a vibrational language. So I have been listening to the Lord's Prayer, people chanting this. And because I've heard, I've heard that people had healings and energy from because he is sharing this coded frequency with us all. So we're speaking English here, obviously. Is there a difference between specific tones or mantras or chants like Sanskrit, or just speaking this authentic vibration in any language that comes through?
Yes, and I'll also add Quechua is also a vibrational language. And so the difference between Sanskrit and so Aramaic becomes Hebrew, which is a then conceptualized language. And Quechua also becomes identified with concept. Sanskrit has dictionaries too, identified with concept, like this word means this. But these language originally don't have meanings. They literally are just sound imprints that we would understand at a pre-lingual understanding, like a body understanding, a soul understanding. And so, yeah, the difference, so these language they all depend on where your tongue is placed and how your throat is being held and where in your mouth these sounds are being formed, so that they affect certain muscles inside the body as well to produce it, and they open up meridian lines and chakra points and nadis as you're doing it, which is literally just your own intelligence without knowing anything. So here's the difference between spoken language and these languages that were really just used for prayer, for connection originally. Then they become conversational. And then there's concept and mind and a knowing that has to be attached to it. So they say it's the decline of a culture, of a civilization, when people don't agree on the definitions of words, where I can actually speak something and think this is what I mean by this, but you would receive it and think it means something totally different, even though you speak my language, because your definition of it is different. And that's where things start to fall apart, because the language, conversational language, is built through learning that this word points to this, and this means this, and this means this. And it's why when we're interlanguage, like when we're not speaking the same language, we don't understand each other, and why we could feel so isolated. But if we took that a step deeper and just went to the vibrational quality of the voice, we would. I dated an Italian man a number of years ago, Marcello. You're listening, honey. Hi. And, he didn't speak a lick of English, and I didn't speak a lick of Italian. And it was a fun little romance where the two of us had to figure out how to understand each other without having any language between us. And wow, I actually recommend this to everybody in their life, to read sound quality and body language before you hear the word, and to feel where the intention of something is coming from. To all of you singers in the world, this is the way to be a great singer. We should be able to understand or feel, it's not understand because it's not mental. We should be able to feel what the song is about without knowing the story lyrically, what is going on. That makes you a great singer. Are we sad, happy, sexy? Are we mourning? Are we yearning? Are we celebrating? What are we doing in our feeling body? And then you can tell me, with Jack and Diane are the ones doing it. You can tell me like who you lost or who is coming or whatever, right? But before all of that, which is what you're pointing to with these languages, before we had word meanings for any of this, we had a connection that was way deeper. If you go pre-lingual, you have caveman, you have grunts, you have you have all these sounds that would have been made with no words, that would have been clear directives, because your body would send a signal to mine and I would feel it from where you sent it from, because our bodies are just receiving and expressing. Like that's all we're doing. We're giving information to the quantum field of the universe, and we're receiving what's coming back and we're interpreting it. The issue that humans have now is that our head has become so strong that when we're interpreting it from the head alone, we lose 99% of what it is that is coming towards us. And we go strictly through our perspective of what I think that means to me in my life at this time, instead of feeling what someone is sharing at all the level of it, which would bring us to great understanding of each other, like true connection and understanding. So these original languages, they're just not just that, they are formulas of sound. They are technology. And when the body and all of its resonators are sending sound in these formulas, it goes up to the heart, down to the belly, into the chest, into the head, out of the throat. When we're sending all of these mantras, right, or all of these prayers through the centers, it's very different than just through the head saying, you know, oh, Heavenly Father, thank you for being there for me, whatever I might think that might be. It's actually sending an imprinted soundscape into the field, which then the whole field that is all connected to itself, space, time, all of that, doesn't exist. It only exists through the ego perception. Once we get past all of that, you could start to manifest miraculously. So to what you said about Jesus, he would say you are healed, and the healing would miraculously occur. It took two things. One, his full system realized, so that his words were not connected to a wish. His words were connected to a frequency of that truth. And by lighting up each of these centers and speaking it through every aspect of his healed vessel, the vessel that would receive that information would come into its own alignment and reconfigure itself. And the opening of the vessel that's receiving it. So those who met Jesus had to believe with their chakras wide open that his words were the word of God. And as long as they felt that, and they were able to relax and release the ego and move all that out of the way, and he was able to conjure that energy, and we were now at a match point where those sounds that he's sending out are not being rejected, we heal. But we do have the power of rejection as well. We have the ability to say, no, I'm not going to let you into my field of energy. And we do that all the time to each other and disconnect all the time to each other. Instead of opening the heart, opening the centers and saying, whatever it is, I receive it, because it's not a threat to me. But the more that we actually believe the threat, we create the threat as well.
Yes, whatever we focus on, for sure, we will continue to focus more on and create more of. So I wanted to talk about humming or toning because, Sanskrit is a vibrational technology. But, humming is really big right now with vagal nerve stimulation, the science, biohackers, all of that, which is amazing. But from a vibrational standpoint, energetic standpoint, you talked about prelingual society, the grunts and the kind of similar to humming. So what's going on with, I would say toning or humming, because even when we do, people have probably experienced listening to the show, doing Om in yoga, towards the end, I mean, for me, it feels like humming, and I can feel my whole being starting to vibrate. So what's this humming kind of thing all about here?
Yeah, so this is another very innate intelligence. Babies and children hum all the time. So basically, when we're humming, our vocal cords are vibrating and they're sending a signal through the body. And an interesting fact about humming is that it actually increases the myelin sheath on the outside of the vagus nerve. So the part of they call this your vagal tone. On the outside of the nerve, there's a sheath that, depending on how thick or thin it is depending on how resilient you are and how much stress your body receives when a million thoughts are being sent down through the system. So humming has the power to do that by a vibration of the vocal cords that then creates a massage right there and starts to create a sound of a vibration that will now move down the whole body and start to vibrate it. But I will start with this, and I want to go back to what you said. You talked about second and fifth because it has everything to do with this. So if everyone who's listening to this wants to try this with me, Take a breath into your belly and see if you can move your diaphragm down. And when you do that, the belly should actually drop open, the waist should come wide, and the low body should go wide. So you should feel your body expand at the bottom. And as you take this breath, you might note that it can't. Your diaphragm might be stuck. Most of us do not breathe down to our belly. Most of us breathe up into our chest. So this is the first shift if we want our voice, but also just for our vagus nerve in general, this is the first shift. So we breathe the diaphragm down, the belly comes out, the waist comes out. Maybe you feel a little low back even. And if you can breathe really deep, you're going to feel the ground underneath you as well. Like you'll get this awareness of yourself on the earth as everything widens down there. So let's take another one of those, and I want you to pay attention to what's happening in your throat as you do that. So breathe in, fill it up. Where do you feel pressure? Where do you feel opening? Where do you feel tightening? What's going on there, right? Okay, now let's exhale and release that. And this time we're going to take that breath again, and when we get to the top of the breath, we're going to suck the stomach all the way in. So breathe in, let it go wide and relaxed. You have your breath. Now hold your breath, suck your stomach all the way in, and feel what happens at your throat. It closes, probably. I mean, that's pretty dramatic, but that's how I feel. And now if I drop my stomach open, it comes back to relaxed, right? Now, if we breathe again, and this time instead of sucking it in, we push it forward when it's full. Let's see how that feels. Breathe in. Open to the top of the breath, and when you get to the top of the breath, hold the breath, but press the belly forward and hold the breath that way. And see what it feels like in there in the throat now. It probably feels wide and very open, right? Okay, now relax it and exhale. Now you're back at neutral. So your second chakra is exactly replicating what's going on at fifth chakra. And even if we don't take the breath now and just suck the stomach in, you're going to feel the throat tighten without even focusing on the breath. And if you relax it, it's going to open. And if you press it forward, you're going to feel it drop down and open. So these muscles below are dictating how sound is going to move through the body. We can upset our vagus nerve with our voice just as easily as we can heal it with our voice. If we're talking with a closed throat, if we're grilling, they have like the vocal fry, that's so big right now. If we're tight and holding the back of our tongue, if everything is stuck inside of here with our TMJ and our neuroses up in here, we're actually sending a signal that's tight and constricted to the vagus nerve. So with your own voice, every time you speak, you're saying, Mayday, 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 I'm stressed, I'm stressed, I'm stressed, even if you're not, right? So the humming that you're speaking of, it's literally life-changing. It's like so basic, this stuff, and literally everyone does it. Everyone can do it. It just means that you have to breathe the diaphragm down and feel that belly open and start to notice the opening, right? Once you breathe down and you feel the belly drop, your throat is opening, right? Your support of your sound has to come from that open place. And once you're there, your vocal cords now have a lot of room to move, and they need space to move. And when they move, they're going to create, I think of it like hummingbird wings. The throat chakra is also, the thyroid is that gland that's shaped like a butterfly. So you could think of it as like a butterfly as well, like wings. But hummingbirds have a higher oscillation and they're so powerful. So I'm going with hummingbird because the sound is literally hum. So hummingbird wings hum. And so they're very, very similar here. So that's what you're trying to create, that level of oscillation that a hummingbird wing will do is going to happen at those two vocal folds. And that is going to open up vibrational healing to your entire nervous system. It tells the body to relax. We're okay. And not only relax, release what is being held tight and stored. It's the same as if you put a sound laser to something. Like zzz, you're going to see it start to break apart. So when you do this with your own voice, you will be able to open tissue that's become mired to itself. You'll be able to areas of your body that are tight from injury, you actually can start to, from the inside out, release the fascia. From the inside out, release the memory. Release these things, and even tumors, and even cysts, and even these things. It's like we don't think of our voice at this level, but it's time we remember. It's time that we remember that we were given the tool of regeneration from the moment we were born. So humming, let's feel it, shall we? This is a good exercise for everyone. If we breathe into that belly and we feel the throat drop open, I want you to feel the front of your lips. If you can't feel the sound with that belly open and that throat open, really buzzing at the lips, it might be a sign that your tongue is tense. And if you use your voice with your tongue tension normally, then that's probably constricting the back of your throat. So if you can notice your tongue relaxed on the bottom of your mouth, completely relaxed, with the tip of it touching the back teeth. And now keep it there, relax, breathe into the belly, feel the pressure at the belly opening the throat, and now you'll probably experience more sound at the front of the mouth, right? That's what we're looking for, the front of the mouth. So with that hum is where you're going to really get the reset, because the sound is not only working from the belly, not only working from the heart, it's also working from the face. So here's your three brains again. And the hum that's being informed to your body is a completely coherent, unified self. Instead of leaning heavily in one particular area of the body, we're going to be holistically humming. Okay. So I would love if everyone would like to try this, for you to feel the difference. Like take the note from how you feel right now to breathing into the belly, keep the tongue relaxed. And we're just going to hum, not the ma. We're just going to do the open hum. So deep breath, put your hand on your chest so that you're connecting to that chest. Keep the tongue relaxed. And we. Let's do this 3 more times together. Breathing in, belly opens, chest, tongue relaxed. Let's How do you feel?
I gotta say, before the humming, opening up the belly outward, that energy shot right up to my pineal. I just instantly could feel that. And first of all, I feel amazing. I can feel my whole body vibrating. With a lot of breath work, all sorts of types out there now, Kundalini breath work as well, the pelvic floor, Mula Bandha, it's kind of a popular thing, and we're pulling up the energy that way. What I have found, it's not about forcing it. It's about just that gentle intention to then open up and allow the energy to come up. I would love to hear your opinion on that, because it's a lot of people I see just crunching it down and trying to pull everything up, but really it's the opening, what you just explained to us.
I have a pretty strong opinion about this. I'm glad you brought it up.
Of course, I can sense it.
Most of us are not ready for Mula Bandha, if you ask me. So the traumas that have happened early on in our life that are undealt with and living inside of our body make our pulling up of our perineum very comfortable for us. We live detached from the earth. We have so much coping mechanism that's been established because of things that have happened in our life that have been unsafe and trauma, as we would call it, or our response to it, that the first thing I always find with every one of my students that I work with is that the pelvic floor is tight and pulled up, which immediately, again, closes off your access to your voice and your throat. So when we're looking at these yoga practices and we're talking about pulling all of that Shakti up to pineal gland to wake up, to awaken, we're talking about pulling that energy up to the not embodied chakras, to the spirit and the visionary aspect of us, which is a very crucial part of us. But it must come after we have claimed ourselves on this planet. Because when you do Mula Bandha with a dropped root, meaning like it's dropped all the time, you live with a dropped root. Then you pull Mula Bandha up. You get to bring large amounts of Shakti, huge amounts of earth energy up through the body to the pineal. And that's what's going to awaken it. But if we're so used to living already in the headspace, our heads are already dominant. And then we just pull tighter. We just pull tighter. We start to lose our connection to life itself. And what you find, you can see behind me from the tanka, like I'm a practitioner of this work. And so much of my work with these teachings is that enlightenment is the exiting ultimately of the planet. It's the awakening and figuring out all of the aspects of this life, like living it, so that when we leave clean. We do not leave with karma. We do not leave with attachment. We do not leave with grief. We do not leave with these things. We actually have realized all the aspects of ourself. We thank the earth for our beautiful journey and we go. But if we haven't first gotten to the place of, I know myself at the root chakra, I know myself at the second chakra, I know myself at the third chakra, I know myself at the fourth chakra, I know myself at the fifth chakra. When we go all the way up through, it can become spiritual bypassing. It doesn't have to be. I'm not claiming this for everyone. Some souls are here just to get their awakening in this lifetime, and I honor them completely. And I'm not saying you, but what I see right now and what my work is primarily about is that the human race is afraid to be on the earth. So we don't want to go into what it means to be an earthling. And instead, we just cope our way out and escape and detach and then think that these practices are just going to make bliss, right? But these practices are designed to make nirvana and bliss a life thing, not you disappear, you go to heaven, you die, and you escape samsara. We can live on this earth in connection with the planet, all of her species, life as it exists, and we can be at peace. We can be in love. We can be in joy. We do not have to be at war. So for me, the teaching of dropping the root first, dropping into the second chakra first, dropping into the third chakra first, and then finding your way to the heart is the difference between wishing the world would be a better place and making the world a better place. And I believe humanity, the call for us is to embody, not escape. The call for us is to get ourselves so connected to this flesh, love what the invitation is of feeling and of connecting to earth and each other, so that we don't harm ourself or other. We don't destroy the planet. We don't destroy the habitats of beings that belong here just as much as we do. And we actually live in equality with all sentient beings, in our own unconditional loving self. And we get to do what this earth invited us to come do, which is be alive in our joy. I think that comes before we awaken pineal and go off to the stratosphere. I think that we bring the stratosphere to the earth. And so, yes, once you get your root chakra in, once you've done this work, once you're in that body, once you're fully realized, self-realization is the name of my game. Once you're fully realized, then yes, enlightenment, go. And you will wake up the earth aspect of what you are and then bring all of that to the highest level of humanity. And we will see an epic human race. living on the planet Earth. But if we just focus Mula Bandha, because also with women and Kegels all the time, I work a lot with the pelvic floor and how like we are taught that a tight underbody is what's hot, sexy, and wanted. A balanced underbody is what's hot, sexy, and wanted. So not too tight, not too loose, right in the middle. And if we lived our life that way, we would see a much different human race.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for sharing that. I've my own journey experiencing Mula Bandha before. I think it was my journey and was what it was supposed to be, but that awakening, you know, brought a lot of fear, a lot of the, because I wasn't rooted. And so as this energy, life force energy coming through me, there was the fear just flowing through me as well. And the more that I embody myself, love myself, the easier that energy flows through me. I'm not scared of it. The more orgasmic it feels. Yes. But we don't need to force it. That's happening naturally. And that's part of, I think that was my path, experiencing that. But it's, yeah, coming home to who we are first, which is what your vocal transformation is all about. Man, I could speak with you all day. Maybe we'll have to have you on for part 2 or 3 because I feel like we could go up to the stratosphere about so many things. Was there anything else on your heart that you want to impart us with today?
Yeah, I just want to say that if this conversation has inspired something that maybe wasn't inspired, like maybe you didn't think of your voice as something that really could change everything, which it can, and you're interested in more, or if you're someone who's working on your voice, you're already a singer, you're already channeling, you're already doing, but you haven't really locked in the resonators and how to really connect into the whole thing, that I want you to come find me, because the last thing I want to say, if it's all right, is that I'm on a very big mission and I want to start planting this out in the world. I haven't been speaking too much about it on the podcast I'm talking about, but I feel like it's really kind of important to speak it. When I told you that I met the medicine, the shamanic medicine, and I was shown the vision of why the voice is the tool for healing, I was also shown something very important, which is that the human race is in a vibrational shift right now. We are evolving, the whole planet is evolving, and the whole thing is a frequency upgrade. And our voice is a frequency that can upgrade. So, what she showed me, which is why I live every day of my life for this reason, is that when we get critical mass on this planet to do this work, to actually find their voice in this way, we will be able to inform the whole rest of the planet, including all the other humans who aren't ready to show up for it, and all of the other species who are living their lives, and the soil that needs regeneration, and everything that's going on. So it might feel far-fetched, which is why I haven't been speaking it out, but I think it's so important right now because I know that nothing is far-fetched at this point. And what I was shown was that if we can get 10% of our global population to do this realignment chakra chanting work, that we can stabilize the next frequency for humanity without even trying to convince anybody else to do it, they will begin to rise. So it's an individual job of finding your own voice. And it's not just for your life, which will become magnificent, but it's also for the earth herself and for the universe at large, because everything we do here affects everything that is. And so if we could start to think about or feel into ourselves at that level of power, and if you would like to learn how to use your voice to do this, please come find me at vocaltransformation.com or at vocal_transformation on my Instagram. My Instagram, I give out a lot of different tidbits, informations, and talks, so that's a really good place to find us. And every year I do a mentorship that's a full 9-month rebirthing through the power of your voice, where I bring a small group of people through the process of awakening each of these chakras. So if this is like going ding, 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 this is my work, I need to do it, I would love nothing more than to usher you into the new age.
Good. Well, thank you for sharing that. I'm sure a lot of the listeners are like, yes, that knowing. We all feel that right now. The the ascension symptoms, if you will. But I hate to hesitate to use that word because it's the embodiment of it, as I'm sure you can feel. So if this resonates with you guys, please check her work out. And if you think of somebody as well, this is a huge part of why I started this show many, many years ago. Please share this with them. There's a reason they popped into your heart. You never know what this episode, what this nugget of humming even can do to help transform somebody's life. So thank you so much again, Maryn, for coming here and sharing your heart and your wisdom with us today. It was such a pleasure being with you.